All across the country, our heritage is under threat as historic buildings are being left to be run down by councils that take control of them, leave them to get dilapidated, and then say they need to be demolished. No exception to that is something that's come to my attention recently of a beautiful historic building in the Scottish borders called Lowood House. Now, this sits on the southern bank of the River Tweed, near Tweedbank and Galashiels. It was built by the last king's architect and surveyor for Scotland in 1829. His name was Robert Reid. So it was built by a notable historical architect, and it is of noted heritage and historical value. It was bought later on by Constance Crum Ewing in 1949. Her family moved in, her son took it over, and sadly he died in 2019. Now, just before he died in 2018, the local council purchased the house and the land all around it, Lowood House. And what that was thought to have been paid for that house was £10 million for Lowood House and the grounds. And it's also reported that the reason that they did that was because they wanted to convert it into social housing units. So I don't know all the ins and outs of the individual people on the council, but certainly at the moment, there is now a plan which has been published that they want to demolish this historic Lowood House, which would cost them £440,000 to do. But they're saying they need to do it because it's been run down and it's been dilapidated, and they need to provide social housing for people in the area. Not that there are that many people in the Scottish borders, I imagine, who are local, who need social housing in the grounds of an old historic stately home. Now, the Architectural Heritage Society of Scotland has got involved in this, and they are campaigning against the demolition of this house. They released a statement just recently that said they urge Scottish Borders councillors to postpone making any decision on the future of Lowood House pending the preparation of a conservation plan and exploration of other options. Lowood House is presently a local asset, presumably worth at least £1 million, even without its wider estate. And to spend £440,000 destroying a £1 million asset seems a significant waste of taxpayers' resources. This is exactly the kind of place large groups of tourists seek to rent by the week. So if the report does not mention using it as a single occupancy accommodation, it is a serious omission from the research. It seems that Scottish Borders Council are hell-bent on going ahead and destroying this historic house without any other thought or consultation. They have to do a consultation, but as we know from looking at previous examples of consultations, the people that hold them then obviously sometimes just ignore the results of any consultation and just go ahead with the plans they have anyway. There are lots of questions to ask about this. Why did the local council step in and get involved in purchasing a property which was so large and of such historic value in the first place? Surely it would have been better to leave it to be sold on the free market to a hotel chain or some community group that could take it and use it for educational purposes, or another private family who might want to take it over and live in it themselves. Why did the council get involved in this and then leave it to go dilapidated and then say, well, now we need to knock it down? But this is not just a unique situation in the Scottish borders. I know of many cases around the country where similar things are happening to individual historic buildings. And if you just think, well, this is one building, it doesn't matter, this is happening everywhere. There are 317 councils in England, 32 in Scotland, 22 in Wales, and 11 in Northern Ireland. And most of them are doing similar things. They're buying up old buildings, and then they have plans to just leave them to get derelict, and then they'll knock them down, either because they say they're unsafe, or they say, well, these old buildings don't meet new climate regulations. We need to knock them down and build some horrible 4 or 5-story carbuncle of smart pod housing units for people to be depressed in, and then they will meet the climate targets that they say that they need to adhere to. This is the wholesale destruction, or the piecemeal and wholesale destruction of our heritage, bit by bit by bit, so that we don't realize it's happening until it's all gone. There's still enough around at the moment for us not to be alarmed too much, but I am alarmed because I see this happening in increasing measure. Obviously, I'm the leader of the Heritage Party, and our councillors on parish and town councils and our activists and candidates at local level are seeing a growing number of these kind of cases, and are actively trying to save some historic buildings, notably some in Devon that I know about. What we need to do is push back on this by making a huge stink in the media. If you live in Scottish Borders, please write to your Scottish Borders councillors and tell them that they're doing the wrong thing and they shouldn't be knocking down a historic house. And I'll just leave you with a thought, which is a quite strange thought. The leader and the largest group in the Scottish Borders Council is actually the Conservative group. But the Conservative group are not conserving our history and our heritage. I've for many years called them the fake Conservatives, because they're not actually conserving anything. If they want to live up to their name, they should be doing the exact opposite of what they are doing, not destroying our heritage, but looking after it. They're not going to do that. So please get involved in local politics yourself. Stand to be a councillor, take over these positions of power, and then we can save our history and our heritage.